Hello my beautiful friends and welcome back to our channel, and today's video where we need to talk about the real reason why you're not saying no to people. So today's video is really important to me, and it's one of those places in life where I feel like coaching is the solution for so many people. Coaching is the thing that takes people over the line with this concept, which is the fact that we intellectually know that when we say yes to somebody else, we're saying no to ourselves. We get that on an intellectual level. We also get that giving, self-sacrificing all the time, redirecting our path and giving away our resources. Ultimately, while it might get some short-term gains, it might create some happiness in the world immediately for the other person who has the request, but ultimately in the bigger picture, it can deplete us over the time, and often does. And the overall result of that is that there is less goodness in the world, there's less value that gets put out in the world. So a lot of us know that on an intellectual level. A lot of us can put our hands up and say, yes, that's me. I do that, I have this problem, I need to change it, I'm gonna change it. I know I'm gonna change it, but we don't. When we look back over our lives, even just take the last week in your life, and you look at how well you prioritize what you say are your priorities, not just from the outset, but as issues come up, as requests come up from other people, as demands or needs come up elsewhere in the world that aren't aligned with your priorities. How often are you saying yes to those things and no to yourself? For a lot of us, it's a lot more times than we'd like to admit. So coaching is the vehicle I see that actually helps us integrate this intellectual knowledge into applied, actual real life results for us. And here's the reason why coaching is the space to learn to say yes to yourself and no to other people. And that's by understanding a couple of critical concepts in coaching, two of which I'm gonna touch on today. The first concept is our thoughts create our emotions. The second concept is that we can't control other people. So with that, let's talk about the real reason why you are not saying no to people. So the first concept, our thoughts create our emotions, is critical to this first reason why we do not say no to other people. And that is because of what we make it mean when we say no. When we're just talking about this, when we're reasoning with ourselves, when we're talking to other people, when we're explaining ourselves, we say the reason why I'm gonna say yes to them or why I can't say no to them is because I don't wanna let them down. I don't wanna disappoint them. I don't want them to feel like I don't care. I don't want them to judge me. I don't want to feel like a bad person. I don't want to be selfish. It's not the kind of person that I am. And all of this, every one of these statements and all their cousins is really saying, I don't want to say no because I don't want to have to hear these thoughts about myself, and I don't want to feel the emotions that those thoughts create. I want you to really think about that in your personal situation. What are the thoughts that you can't bear to think about yourself? Because you can't tolerate the emotion that comes up with it. I'm selfish. I only care about myself. I don't give enough. I'm always focused on me and what I want. I'm not a good team player. I hurt people. I disappoint people. I let people down. I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good employee. I'm not that valuable at work. I'm not creating that many good results at work. Why would they want to keep me? I don't put other people first. I'm unkind. The least I could do is help them. I should help them. And on and on and on and on. Insert your particular thoughts. So notice how some of those thoughts are about what they will think about you. And I just want to bring this back to the original coaching concept, which is that your thoughts create your emotions. If somebody else has a thought about you that upsets you, that hurts you, that creates an emotion that makes you distressed or upset, hurt in some way, it's not the fact that they are having their opinions. So firstly, they may or may not be having that judgment of you. Regardless, it's your thought, your belief that that is true in some way about you and that that's a problem, that that's a bad thing that creates your emotion. It's not their judgment, it's not their thought, it's your thought. So Brooke Castillo uses this fun example of saying, if somebody said that, I just hate your blue hair, it's terrible, and you didn't have blue hair, right? You would look at that person and be like, how peculiar, how interesting. But at the core of it, you wouldn't be affected by their belief. They've tried to insult you or say that something is bad about you, something that would usually hurt you, right? But because you don't believe their belief, because you don't believe their judgment, you're not emotionally affected by that. It doesn't enter your belief system. You do not believe what they believe. And it works the other way around too. If you're hurt by what somebody else thinks, their judgment, it's only because you also believe that thought too. And this is really good news because it means that if you can change that belief for yourself, then you can change the way you feel. Care about the way we feel because it is our experience of the world, but also because it drives our behaviors, right? The cognitive program says your thoughts create your emotions, which create your behaviors. And in totality, that creates your outcomes in life. So that is the first reason why we don't want to say no to people, because we don't want to deal with the aftermath of all the thoughts, all the things that come up after we say no. If we say no, then I'll think X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, F, all the way to Z about myself. You'll probably have a flood of thoughts that make you feel hurt, and that might feel overwhelming, and it might just feel easier to not create that situation for yourself where you have to deal with those thoughts. And this is where coaching comes in. There's the act of saying no, there's the actual action, the decision to say no, the act of saying no, and then there's taking care of yourself after the fact. So to actually make the experience that you want out of this. Now this brings me to the second reason for why we don't say no to other people. And that brings in this concept, this coaching concept of wanting to control people. The fact that we can't control people. The second reason that we don't say no to other people is because we want them to think differently about us. We don't want them to think poorly of us. Now you already know from the first concept that the reason that we want them to think differently of us is because we think that is what's creating our thoughts and our emotions. So we think if we can get them to think nice thoughts about us, then we can more easily think nice thoughts about us, then we can feel better, and at the very least we don't have to feel bad. But here with the second point, I want to point out what you're trying to do here. You are trying to control what that other person thinks. You're being manipulative essentially, and I'm using that in a provocative way. I'm using the word control and manipulative because at its core, that's what we're trying to do. We are being dishonest. We're saying yes when we want to say no in order to not have them think poorly of us, to have them think positively of us. That is manipulation. That is attempting to control another person, and it's doing so in an inauthentic way. Now, a lot of people spend so much energy in their lives trying to control and manipulate other people, and now that makes it sound almost malicious. I know, I understand that it's not malicious at all. If anything, it's coming from you trying to take care of yourself and protect yourself, that part of yourself who is afraid of what they think and trying to make people like you or not be upset with you. And that's just so human. But I want you to try and look at it from this perspective of it being inauthentic, dishonest, trying to manipulate and control. Not only because those things are all true, but also because it's a really ineffective method. It is a waste of energy to do this. Yes, sometimes we're able to influence people and the way that they think about us, the way that they feel about us. And as social creatures, we will always do this, not from a malicious place, from a place of wanting that connection and shared experience and all of those wonderful human things. But in this situation, when you say yes and you want to say no, not only is it inauthentic for the other person, towards the other person, but it's also inauthentic towards yourself and neglectful of your own mission and what's important to you. Remember that you have a relationship with yourself too, not just relationships with other people. And finally, you cannot control other people. You cannot even influence people with any precision. So your energy that gets put into that effort to influence other people is often futile. And often the energy that it takes to put in, all the things that you sacrifice to put in, don't come out as equal. So that value exchange of trying to control other people to create outcomes doesn't usually work out for the greater good in the world, and certainly not for yourself. And tying this back to our first reason for not saying no, realizing that the reason that we're trying to change what they think about us, or change what they think full stop, is because we think that that changes how we think and feel about ourselves. And knowing that that's not the case, knowing that they don't have to change how they think for us to be able to change what we think about ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. Knowing that those two things aren't connected means that your efforts are truly unnecessary here. That inauthenticity is unnecessary. That abandoning of yourself is unnecessary. You get to think whatever you want to think about yourself, independent of what they think about you. You don't need to attempt to control what they think. All right, my beautiful friends, I hope this one has been really helpful for you guys today. I want to see more of you standing up and stepping out into what is important to you in life and executing on that, really creating the value that you came here to create. And we cannot do that in the world when we're too busy trying to change everybody else's opinions of us, when we're trying to prioritize everybody else's missions in parallel. We need to be able to stand up for what we think is most important, and that means people not being happy with us sometimes. And I just want to invite you to consider that maybe that's perfectly okay. Maybe that is a totally normal part of this. That even if you attempted to make everybody else happy, you would still fail anyway. My beautiful friends, if you know this work is the work that you need to be doing right now, if you haven't been able to say no to all the other things and prioritize what's important to you in the last week, in the last year, get on a call with me. Let's talk about how coaching could change your life and actually start to integrate what is just intellectual knowledge now and make it real for you. Make these changes real in your life. Love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next one.